Hi, Sumant.
Hi Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining me today.
Sure, it's a privilege,
So I understand you've accepted the job.
right?
Tell me about the job.
Okay, so I'm going to be working as an account manager, or you can call it as a technical sales specialist for Novogene Corporation, which is an international corporation. It's working in the United States, UK, China, and I'll be helping out scientists like myself to provide solutions in terms of doing cutting-edge research.
Tell me, how did you get this job?
Oh wow, that's an interesting and long story, but I'll just walk you through it. So my journey started as in terms of job search. It goes back to 2.5 years. Started in fall of 2015. So I had this PhD, but my question was, what I'm going to do with my PhD. So I started asking this question really early. And this is one of the important messages I want to tell international students is be ahead of the curve, start early. So I started reaching out to people and just getting to know what kind of jobs were available because I did not want to take a traditional path of the academic jobs. So I started reaching out people, and then turns out getting in industry was hard, starting from a bench scientist, and it requires certain skills. So first thing is you need to make a resume, not a CV. That was from my case. Second of all, you should know the big companies or the small companies you want to work for. And finally, if that matches your skills or if that's what you want to do. So the journey was long and arduous, and I kept going on. I started networking. It was natural to me because I'm kind of a people's person. It's easier for me to reach out to people. And I started with, like, I made a notebook where I start reaching out to people. LinkedIn was the starting point. And I kept going, and I joined some professional forums, which helps scientists like myself to get into jobs in industry. But I think the big thing that did was, it was basically networking that prepared me. Interactions with yourself one-on-one that kind of refined me in terms of nailing the interviews. And I had all this wealth of information from my networking information, interviews, the jobs I want to target. So I was really focused. Technical sales is what I was looking for, and that's what I ended up. But in short, I reached out almost 1,000 people in a period of more than 2 years. I had them, few hundred of them on the phone. I met few of them in person. Just to give an example, I would take a flight and go to Boston to meet someone. I wasn't doing that all the time, but I would play all my cards. So leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging Udemy alumni network. There were some people who were in big managerial position in the field I want to work for. They were Udemy alumni. They were really helpful. I did not get a job referral, but I did learn how to crack an interview, which is equally important. So it's been an exciting journey.
And a long one at that. So tell me, you said you had 5 interviews and 4 offers.
So yeah, it was like I was finishing up my PhD, and it was frustrating because I had all this expectation for myself because I was current, like was talking to people in terms of the companies I want to work for, the kind of jobs I was looking for. So I was getting referrals, but a big roadblock was not getting the visa sponsorship, or they would shy away from interviewing me, even though I had strong internal referrals. And that was a shock to me because to me it was like you build a network, you generate a referral, you get a job. It's pretty simple. So it did not pan out the way I planned. The magic was done by online job posting. So it was Indeed where I got most of my interviews.
How many jobs did you apply to?
Yes. So in total, just to ballpark, because I have not kept track of because I'm applying on and off, I would say it was less than 100, maybe 60 or 70.
Okay.
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
But my applications are really tailored. So when I was applying to, let's say, a company, General Electric, my resume would be really focused to the job I'm applying, to the company I'm applying. My cover letter would be almost perfect, like, because that's your impression you want to make. So I would take a lot of time on working before I turn a job application. So coming back to the number of jobs I applied, it's almost 50 or 70. This is to ballpark. In total, I guess it was 2 or 3 weeks when I sincerely applied. Like I had like this OPT thing, and I was like, I need a job. And I did 5 interviews, and I got 4 job offers.
What would you say was the aha moment for you in the job search?
There are a bunch of those.
Okay.
So I was pretty trained in my, I had this kind of picture in my mind that you need to talk to people to get jobs, as Don Asher says in one of his books and interviews. That part was good to me. Like I could see that talking to people helps. So for example, this I've already touched previously. I was talking to a marketing manager, a global product manager in a big company in Indianapolis. He happens to be a UD alumni. And I reached him out and I asked for an information interview via phone. And he was kind enough to share his time with me because people are busy. And I remember he said me this, there is only one way. Get a job and be awesome at it. There is no shortcut. And that kind of like, I had this kind of thing in my mind that, you have to be awesome, whether it's interview preparation or it's delivering yourself, getting a job, and then making a successful professional. So that was one big aha moment. And the story goes on because he explained I was a bench scientist and I wanted to be in sales, so it's even harder. So there were a bunch of things he reflected upon that I could relate to in terms of leveraging my people skill. My job is to sell and understand my job, not to troubleshoot or not to do the sciencey stuff. That was with respect to my job position. And the aha moments are like just so many because I could just anytime I talk to a person who has been in a professional world with so many years of experience, I learn so much. And one of the aha moments was with you. And I remember we were working on, and we were talking about the elevator pitch, which I think you need to have $1 million sales pitch. For me, it was a sales pitch because sales is what I was targeting. But that's the first question. Why do you want to be in sales? Why do you want to be in marketing? And I was working with you, and I was telling you, hey, how does this sound? So I was like, I grew up in India. I wanted to be a scientist. I had this big picture mindset, which all of that was fine. And you said, Sumant, this is fine. You need to tell what your heart and intent is. And I went back and I sat down with a copy and pen because it was a whole Saturday to figure out, who truly I was. It's like I was inspired by the big American dream. That was me. And I included that in my pitch. And Lisa, I'm going to tell you that not even a single hiring manager, every single hiring manager was impressed. He was sold in first 30 seconds or 2 minutes. Because so my elevator pitch was like, I grew up in India. I was always inspired by the big idea of big American dream that drove me across Atlantic. I want to see how cutting-edge science is done. I have completed my PhD, but I see there's a huge gap between what scientists and customer requires and what industry has to offer.
Yeah.
And I think a person like myself who is great at relationship building and knows the science can help that. So something like that. So I think there is only one key. You have to dig deep inside you and get your truth and say it with confidence. Because they're not looking for a cookie cutter answer. They want to know you, but still in a professional sense. So for me, the journey was more inward and outward, more self-reflection and then packaging it in a professional manner. So I sold my international vantage point because one of the company from Los Angeles is hard, it's too much traffic, it's a different culture. And I was like, I came from India and people drive in opposite direction. They speak different language. The grocery stores are totally different. And I've made it here as a successful scientist. So I don't think so I'm going to have a problem in Los Angeles. So you got to sell, your weaknesses is turn that around and make it your strength. Be an alchemist.
That's perfect. I get from students, I'm an international student. How am I supposed to network? I don't know anybody. What would you say to that?
Talk to people. Start reaching out. Start from your professors. Start from your friends. Reach out career services. I know people who have done courses which are more marketable because mine was pure science, basic science, and I'm getting this industry job. I know people who have done diplomas that are like directly related to the economy, finance or marketing, and they don't leverage career services. They're like, it's good, but I don't see a lot of value. They don't help. Not necessarily they understand people are helpful, but for them, it's the same question that every international student goes through. Like, you go to a career fair and there are people and the sponsorship issue gets around and there's a big roadblock. But I have a totally different opinion because I learned so much from you. I did come prepared, but I have to be honest, I learned so much from your one-on-ones that, hey, you're one of my mentors. You have gone out of the way to make personal recommendations. You've introduced me to the people. You told me to leverage alumni network. That helped. Plus, you need someone to even walk you through like little details. Job search is a big package, and every component matters. So I would say just reach out to people. If I can reach out 1,000 people, you can reach out maybe 10,000. But you'll end up with a job if you do that.
Tell me a little more about the informational interview process. A lot of people don't even know what it is, let alone how do you start that process?
Right. So I guess the whole idea is you have this raw material because you have this diploma. You want to shape it. And it has to go through some process. That's how I always see. Like, I know I have all the content to become a top sales or marketing or engineering professional. But then there is a gap in terms of how industry operates, what they value, what they exactly do. You have to talk their language. That's the biggest thing. So the whole idea is you reach out a person. The first thing is be respectful of their time. So there was a time when people would say, I can talk to you at 3 p.m. PST, Pacific times, and I would be crunching experiments in my lab, but I would never say no. I would work my schedule, take 10 minutes or 20 minutes out and reach them out. So the whole point is like step one, you reach out a person who matches your professional goal or career that you want to end up in. You want to find out information. You be respectful and just write a few lines, hey, I come from so-and-so background. I'm interested in what you do. This is really exciting. Can you please describe what the role is like? You go from there. Write that message in LinkedIn or email or whatever channel you want to use. You follow up. If they accept your request, say, hey, can you please do a phone conversation? I really appreciate your time. And just to go from there. And you ask them. So that's the beauty. They're not interviewing you because to them you're like a kid, you're like a toddler, and they're going to walk you through. So it's all information. You just be receptive and take it. You say, hey, how's it like to be in your job? What do you do? What are your goals? What's valued? Do you have any recommendations for myself? People love to give recommendations. So just keep adding that. Be receptive. Talk less. Listen more. Be respectful for their time. You have to understand if you reach someone in Wall Street in New York, they're busy people. And even if they're replying to me means they're good-hearted and nice people. So I really respect that. And there was a time I was talking to a girl in San Francisco. I reached her out 3 or 4 times. We connected once. And then I follow up next year, and she scheduled 3 times, and she canceled all the 3 times. But I did not took it personal. I still reached out at the fourth time, and she saw that spark in me, and she came back with a job offer in her company, like a job that was open. That was in San Francisco, marketing position.
Wow.
It did not lend it to a job, but what I'm saying is, to me, it's a helpful word. People try to help. People are busy. You just keep reaching out. You'll find the right person.
Did you send thank you notes each time?
Oh yeah. This was one thing I was really good about. Be it yourself, I try to reach out, come back, and this is a culture that's good in our school too. So you should imbibe that as a DNA coming from University of Dayton. Anytime, I would even buy like a box of thank you notes and send out to people. Sometimes it's hard to find their address, but an email follow-up or LinkedIn thank you, you have to be thankful because they're not my relatives. They don't owe me anything. I have not seen them in person. Still, they're giving their biggest commodity, that is their time to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I owe them. And I think people always ask, like, adding value, how to navigate a relationship. To me, it was pretty simple. Just be thankful. That's the biggest thing you can give to someone.
Perfect. There was one point in your journey, I remember, I thought you were going to give up. You weren't feeling well, and you told me you were just going to take a break.
Yeah, I still remember that. In fact, I'm still recovering from a few things. But I guess a part of that was I was doing a PhD. PhDs are stern. They're long and hard. You go through the grind, but at the same time, it's like going through fire and you come out as gold. So a lot of my success, it also has to be related for myself being a successful scientist because I was teaching, I was great at communication. Something was already in me, like naturally I'm good at communication. Some things my grad school helped me because I was always teaching and always training people. So it was not everybody is a PhD. PhDs are hard, but having said that, each diploma and each person have their own struggles. Mine led into a lot of stress and a physical, imbalance that because I worked so hard that it got me. It was frustrating because, first of all, I had high expectation of myself. I wanted a really nice job. Not only I wanted a job that I would work for, I wanted a nice salary, I wanted a nice corporation to work for. So my dream was the day I'm going to defend my PhD, I'm going to have a job that is path less traveled. It's really valued, and I'm going to shine through it. It was there's a lot of struggle. I made it through, but not the day of my defense, but maybe 2 months after that.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I would feel that, as you mentioned, it was frustrating, but I would always come back. It's like, it was natural for me. I had my heart. I had only one thing that I was focused in.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very focused,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped.
Okay. Because I work with a lot of students. I can tell they're tired and disenchanted,
Right.
and frustrated and almost convinced that no one will hire them.
Well, I have to be honest. There were stages like when I graduated, and there was this big company that I built a relationship with a sales professional, and he was so nice and kind. That was a booster on my resume. It would get so much attention. So that big company, I got an internal referral. That was my dream company. It still is. And the internal recruiter would come back, hey, I know you have a referral, but I'm sorry to say that hiring manager is not willing to sponsor. And to me, it was like, oh my God, I've done all the right things. Imagine, like, 2.5 years of hard work, and the end, I listened that the right fit job would not happen because I'm not an American, I don't have a green card.
Mm-hmm.
It would definitely have a traumatic effect on your, on your job search as well as your confidence. So that happens, but you have to understand that you only need one person who can be impressed by your skills. Just one person. One right day, it's all magic. And that happened to me. Hey, it was the same roadblock. And once I started applying online, which is, we don't value that much because it's application tracking software, it's not valued, nobody sees it. But almost all my interviews, well, some of them did came from referral, but majority of them came from Indeed. But once I had that resume, it was speaking volumes because I had the right bullet points. I had the right, for me it was a sales resume. People can look from 100 feet and tell this guy has done some work because I've done some shadowing in sales. Mm-hmm. I sold my technical skills. I put customer facing in there. Mm-hmm. And so it goes from there. And then once they reach you out, and if you're prepared for interviews, which again, a lot of information interviews is going to help. Your work with career services, your own hard work. Just Google it. Just try to talk to your friends. Mm-hmm. Come up with a script. Don't be mechanical, but you need to know who you are, what you have to offer. Mm-hmm. And I think things just fell into place. There is no magical recipe. It's just you have to go through this hard work and grind.
Mm-hmm. So I work with a lot of international students.
Right.
And there's times when a student like yourself comes in and I know that there's that spark.
Right.
And you're going to listen to what I say and you're going to do your best to apply. And then there's other times where a student will come in, it's late, like they just are getting ready to graduate. I've even had them come in, my OPT card just came, and they're just starting the search. And I feel like really sad. So getting people to come in early, what more could I do to get that message across?
Right. I think that's you've asked a really good question. And I see that in my peers who are international students who want to do what I am doing. But again, there is no spark and there's, but I think what can help, there are two things. First of all, my message to international students is, and then you can post it, you can make a video of it. You have to understand that United States of America operates in a very different manner than your home country. It's just the culture. If you fail to understand that, you're going to fail at everything, not just the job search. You're going to fail in your work. You're going to fail in your health. You're going to fail in your management, your finances. It's a different country. For you to get a job, you just need to understand what American culture is professionally. First of all, people are really confident here. You need to have the best positive outlook. It's just the nature of this country. You can call it American spirit. Second of all, it's a nation of early birds. You got to start early, and people will respect you for that. Mm-hmm. And an average American student starts his job search 4 to 6 months beforehand. It's an engineer, a right approach. People can be fortunate. A lot of hiring can happen in the school or for the companies you're interning for. That's an exception. I'm just talking about general things. You start 4 to 6 months early, and you have all this leverage. You know the language. You come from that country. You know people. You have a green card. You're an American. Now, I'm not saying that's your competition, but you have to understand that you're going through a funnel here, and your chances are only 4 to 5%. And if you're already late, you've lost the battle. So start early. Understand what this country is about. And I hate to say this, you have to get a good communication skill here because it's the first good impression. If you're not fluent in English, it's not the fault of somebody's hiring you, it's your fault. You might be great at algorithm, you might be the second Einstein, but the first impression that's going to be made is, could you communicate who you are? So if you're not as fluent, that's fine, but at least work, try, go to socials, try to reach outside of the comfort zone.
Mhm.
At least try so that it can be reflected that you've made an attempt in understanding the culture. So there is that. You have to start early. What you can do, what career services can do is, I'm a graduate student, so I see that from that perspective. And graduate student, believe it or not, is a minority just because you're less in number. But there are great diplomas, there are great professors, there are great courses, and there are great students. So one good way would be to involve more people. So just market that just as soon as the international orientation starts. I think if career services can tag along with them and say, hey, in past year we have 50 international students who are now scientists, engineers, and sales professionals. And just keep saying that make a visit to career services. There is a lot of options.
Mhm.
So that is a good reminder, which International Student Scholar Services does a good job.
Mhm.
But I think if career services wants to take a lead, just get them in the beginning.
Mhm.
Because to be honest, everybody here has come on board to get a professional job for a few years. Even if they don't want to reside here forever, that's their first priority. So if you get them, and a lot of Asian, Indian community, and Middle Eastern community, if you tell them that, hey, people are getting jobs, they work with us,
Mhm.
you should make an attempt to stop by. Just get them in orientation. Just print a flyer and say, hey, this is what career services has to offer. Come and see us.
Perfect. I like that idea. All right. I think we've covered a lot of the main points.
Right.
I don't want to end this video thinking everything was perfect and rosy along the way. I imagine there may have been a few missteps or mistakes. Americans like to focus on what the weaknesses were.
Right, right.
Looking back, can you see some mistakes and things you would have done differently?
Sure. I think every person evolves, and I've evolved in this process.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mistakes were twofold. The first one was I did not get the order right. So I was reaching out to people, but I was not so focused in terms of job, which you can argue because once you talk to people, you get to know what you want to work for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, I just explored my network, but so it was time management. I was investing way too much time, which is not bad, but it exhausted me.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to plan like, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours or 4 hours. 50 good relationships versus 5,000 not so great relationships. You still have 50 that's going to weigh more. So that's quality. Which I had, but my thing was I just exhausted myself by investing myself too much. I almost got insane because I was just doing LinkedIn, like I was just reaching out to people. I don't know, I was curious or I had this fire, but I definitely think looking back,
Mm-hmm.
I was overdriven. I burnt myself up.
Mm-hmm.
That can, again, because it was a long journey, and then a year after that, I had this, I was like tired, exhausted, drained. The PhD was already taxing, so just manage it well.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I would say if you have to pick between watching a movie on a Friday night
Mm-hmm.
versus job search, I would personally pick job search.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me, but you got to figure out what works best for you. Second thing would be, and this is just my advice to others. I'm unlike this. You can have backups or ways that are like that might not lead to that are perfect or dream job right away. I never had that, but because of that, I suffer. And this has happened to me second time in my life. First time when I was coming to the United States for pursuing a grad school, which I had 4 or 5 grad schools I could end up, but then I was not looking into other countries, and there was a roadblock. And this happened to me this again because, hey, I'm trained as a scientist. There are a bunch of jobs that I could easily get. But I am just so focused. I would like to do what I want to do, and I would take risks. So for me, it was a high risk game.
Mm-hmm.
But that could lead to, I was fortunate. I had really supportive friends, family, and they understand me, and I trust myself more than anything in this world. So I had that in me, but at some point, you should have a plan B good in hand, a plan C. Because job search are long, sometimes you don't get the right thing right away. Maybe in a year from graduation you would get that. So it's a slow process. Start early. The momentum will pick up. Eventually you'll be in a good place. But just understand it's a journey. You need to enjoy it too.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, yeah. I enjoyed it because I was passionate about it, but for me it was, I guess it was a little too much.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever go to a career fair?
I did. I did this year. I did not go last year, and I went in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my understanding. They're great places to talk to people. I do think a lot of the employers are not receptive for people who don't have green card. And I know career services put a lot of effort in bringing these vendors and employers. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change a company policy. If they have this thing, hey, we're not going to hire somebody who needs sponsorship. People can't do anything. But let me give you one example. So there is this global company called as Cargill that has one manufacturing or operating unit in Dayton itself. And people are always getting hired in Cargill. So it was this career fair when I was talking to people in Cargill over career fair, and there was this woman who must be from HR, or she was representing Cargill. And I told her I'm interested, and she said, yeah, you're a scientist, it's great, go and apply online, and you're going to hear that a lot from people. I kept my conversation. I was like, hey, I've looked into these jobs, and it's hard. I've applied to Cargill in the past. What do you think is going on? Just be respectful, be open, and be positive. People will tell you. She was like, Sumant, to be honest, it's hard if you don't have a sponsorship. I don't see a lot of people getting hired. But here is my name, and here's my email address. You can use me as a referral, and I'll try my very best to see if anything can be done. So you have to understand that you have to break through a wall that's invisible. But at the same time, it's interesting in the sense the same companies that told me that they're not interested in a candidate who requires sponsorship, at the same time, they're sponsoring 200,000 people every year.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that happening? It's hard. Somebody just told me over phone, in terms of sales, some people are going to be chicken. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to invest in you, whereas others won't be. So you need a person who trusts and sees your value. It's hard, but career service is a great place to get your things going. Just get a resume, just dress nicely, just talk to people, and you never know. It's a small world.
Perfect. I'm going to throw one more question.
Sure.
If you had a chance to talk to employers,
Right.
speaking on behalf of international students, what would your pitch be?
I would say this to employers. This is a country that's made out of people who are brilliant in what they do. That's the whole point of industry or organization or economy that's boosting the United States. It's like you want to get the best people in the jobs. And I do understand that there are policies, national policies that you work for. But what I would say is imagine a person who could design a next generation computer that's just going to blow the whole world away. You might be one step, you might be missing that by one step. So don't lock yourself up. Your companies are going to make millions and millions of dollars of business, plus so much more. And it's all about people. So you should trust that if you find a right skilled person, you should hire them. I would do that. I would not play safe because that's just me. I'm a risky person. You only get your life once. You got to make the best out of it in every decision. And hiring is great. A person can get you so much in terms of what they can have to offer in terms of an organization. So look for that passion. Be it any citizen of maybe from this country or from international student. And international student, there's one more thing. They always have this drive because they want to prove themselves. And they're more adaptable for sure because they have already come in here and they've shown their adaptability. So you have to understand that there is more drive. It's just the culture. It's not that Americans are great, they're talented, but it's like an extra thing that international students do. And that's reflected. I'm proud to be coming from a country like India where you can see a lot of Silicon Valley, a lot of professionals, a lot of doctors and engineers. They're doing amazing work and they're contributing, they're paying taxes, they're just doing an amazing job making this country, to achieve great heights.
Fantastic. I thought of another question, and this will be my last one.
Sure.
When I talk about cultural barriers to the job search,
Right.
One of the things I talk about is this respect for a hierarchy for someone who's in a position of power. And it's really important for a job seeker to connect with that recruiter, that person from that company right away. What would you say to international students who tend to hold back? They have the ingrained, since they were very little,
Again, it's the cultural thing. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think people in the United States would value you if you're talented and if you reach them out. If you don't reach them out, nobody's going to come and tell you, hey, do this. That's just how this country works.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I am not scared of even reaching out to a CEO of a trillion-dollar company. Because you have to understand that you're talking to an employer because you see value in yourself. If you don't see value in yourself, then what's the point? So, and then second of all, as long as you're respectful, people would work with you. There is this recruiter that I worked with that was one of my job offers. She's from Nebraska. I've never seen her. She reached me out, and it was through a mutual contact, but it was still, recruiters also want to work with people who know how to pitch themselves or who have great value. And I had all this pitch and all that, and she was definitely super impressed. She introduced me to an opportunity. But I was really respectful to her because, first of all, she had maybe 15 or 20 years of experience in terms of what she's hiring. So she knows more than me. At the same time, I was showing my value. So I would just thank her more, be more respectful of her time, and maybe call her ma'am, and maybe just crack a lighter joke about weather,
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making is I did not take that job offer. It was not the right fit, but I still have a very good rapport and a relationship with her. We might end up meeting each other in a conference. So I put down that offer, but I still leveraged, the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I still leveraged my people skill to maintain that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And she respects that. So I think there are all sorts of people, and not everybody's going to like you, but you have to understand that if you're being respectful,
Mm-hmm.
you're showing your talent, you're managing your time well, you're respectful of their time, they would want to work for you. They need talented people. It's a two-way street. It's not that you're desperate for a job, which at some point I was, even though I had all these skills. But it's only through interviewing process and getting multiple job offers I realized, hey, I have a lot to offer. I was making these amazing business plans and generating those leads. I had this high confidence, and I know how sales work. So it's the homework that's going to get you the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't talk to professional people, you don't know your value. You might have taken a course that's directly applicable. You need to know the industry. You need to know the job market. You need to talk to people. So by doing that, you will get that confidence that I'm going to be fit or not. But to me, it's I like this because I like to have the thrill. So I'm starting in sales, but I'm in sales, sorry, but I might end up in venture capitalism or investment banking. That's just me. But what I'm saying is it's just that confidence that you need to bring in yourself and just project it.
That's wonderful. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that we haven't talked about?
Sure. So my message to international students is just stay positive. Your time will come. There are provisions with CPT and OPT. Utilize them well. Show your value to your employer. And just funnel the information out. It's a part of being educated. So start early. I would make an Excel sheet and write down the companies I want to work for, the people I know in those companies, and just the follow-up details. How can you fit into them? Is there an additional course you can do? Is there a person you can talk to? Could you design a project that matches the company you want to work for? I've done all these sort of crazy things. So my big thing for international students is it's in your hands. You have to do the hard work. Having said that, I do understand there are talented and super talented people who end up being unemployed. And there are people who don't do so much in job search and end up being a job.
So this is.
But I think if I am sleeping well with the idea that I'll give my
as an
100%,
international student,
at least I'm sure I've done your technical skills are great. So
your
that's
heart
the
was
best
great. You're reaching out as people.
is great. But the biggest thing is you need to impress people, and not in a robotic or mechanical way, because they'll figure it out. So for me, it was a journey. Again, it's more inside out. Like what I have to offer, you need to dig deep inside yourself. Because when you know who you are, you will be really confident in projecting that. So this is really important for them to understand that a technology is not going to get them a job. A course is not going to get them a job. They are going to get themselves a job. And they're going to do that by winning people over. That's the single most important skill. In a sense, you're selling yourself. I shouldn't say you're selling yourself. You're selling your professional skills. And it's the most important thing to win people over. So you need to have that during your interactions, during your communications. So the 4 job offer letters that I have, every single hiring manager was impressed because I followed up. I showed what value I have. I would put together a business plan. Even reaching out and talking with confidence, that shows that you know what you're doing. You have something to offer. You follow up means you're excited about that job.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to open up and just win people over. That's the key. That's what's going to take you to great success.